There is a quiet, invisible weight that crushes far more human beings than poverty, physical disease, or open warfare ever will. Millions of people wake up every single morning feeling utterly drained, their nervous systems frayed and their spirits heavy. Yet if you inspect their physical surroundings, nothing has directly attacked them. They believe they are struggling under the demands of their own ambitions or the natural hardships of existence. But the truth is far more tragic. They are slowly suffocating under an immense mountain of burdens, expectations, and emotional debts that were never theirs to carry in the first place. You can spend decades exhausting yourself trying to fix broken situations and rescue people who do not want to be saved, only to realize that you have traded away your own sanity for an illusion of control. In ancient times, a weary traveler was walking along a steep mountain road, carrying an enormous burlap sack that grew heavier with every mile. Along the way, every person he met handed him an object. An elder gave him a chipped stone of ancestral grievance. A passing merchant handed him a heavy iron bar of financial panic, and an old friend dropped in a wet, rotting log of personal guilt. The traveler took them all out of a misplaced sense of duty, convinced that refusing them made him callous. By sunset, his spine was bent double, his boots were torn to ribbons, and he collapsed on the edge of a cliff, unable to lift his eyes to the stars. He was not destroyed by the difficulty of the mountain pass. He was crushed because he treated everyone else's discarded stones as his personal sacred mission. Most people live their entire lives exactly like that broken traveler. You absorb the erratic moods of your family. You take personal responsibility for the bad decisions of your friends, and you exhaust your vital energy trying to manage how strangers perceive your character. When someone in your orbit refuses to grow, creates continuous chaos, or acts with reckless foolishness, your immediate instinct is to rush in, catch the falling glass, and absorb the impact with your own hands. You call this empathy, loyalty, or love, but in reality, it is a profound form of self-destruction. You are attempting to govern a kingdom you have no jurisdiction over, while the sacred domain of your own mind is overrun with weeds and completely neglected. Consider the discipline of an ancient stonemason building the great walls of a frontier city. The mason does not wake up at dawn and attempt to reshape the entire mountain, nor do they lose their sanity worrying about the tectonic shifts deep beneath the soil. Their entire focus is narrowed down to the single square of stone sitting directly beneath their chisel. They carve it flat, align the level, and place it true. The weather may turn freezing, the empire may undergo political upheaval, and distant armies may march across foreign plains, but the mason wastes zero breath on matters beyond the reach of their own hammer. True peace is the ruthless, unshakable boundary you draw between the narrow circle of your direct control and the vast, chaotic ocean of things that belong solely to the world. Think about a river ferryman guiding a wooden barge across a violent, swirling river. The ferryman does not argue with the velocity of the rapids, nor do they rage against the submerged boulders hidden beneath the foam. They study the current, plant their oar firmly in the water, and adjust their angle with calm precision. If a passenger on board begins to scream in terror or hurl insults at the sky, the ferryman does not drop the rudder to debate their fear or absorb their panic. The ferryman knows that letting go of the rudder to soothe someone's irrational frenzy guarantees that everyone aboard will drown against the rocks. When you drop the rudder of your own life to micromanage the emotional storms of other people, you capsize your own vessel. When you attempt to control what does not belong to you, you become a puppet dancing to the erratic strings of external fate. If someone's approval can lift your spirit to the clouds, and their cold indifference can plunge you into misery, you do not possess your own life. You have surrendered the keys to your internal fortress to casual passers-by. The sovereign individual recognizes that other people's opinions, unresolved traumas, emotional immaturity, and unprovoked betrayals are entirely external events. They belong to their creators, not to you. Look at how an old forester handles a wild brush fire spreading across distant hills. The forester does not run into the blaze armed with a single bucket of water, nor do they stand weeping as the smoke rises. They clear a wide, clean firebreak around their own home, digging down to bare earth so the flames have zero fuel to cross the line. You must build an emotional firebreak around your soul. When the chaos, dysfunction, and reckless choices of others burn through their own territory, let the fire burn out at the boundary of your peace. The moment you stop taking responsibility for the choices of others, the heavy iron chains fall from your wrists and your spirit can finally breathe. In the ancient harbor of Alexandria, a master shipwright was once asked how he could watch a vessel he spent 3 years building sail straight into a violent Mediterranean gale without losing his mind to terror. The shipwright looked at the raging sea and replied that his sacred duty ended the precise second the hull left the dry dock. He had selected the dense cedar, pitched every seam with boiling tar, and balanced the keel to perfection. The integrity of the timber was entirely within his power, but the fury of the squall, the shifting tides, and the competence of the helmsman belonged entirely to the sea. To pace the shoreline, tearing his hair out over the storm, would not calm a single wave. It would only rob him of the strength needed to build the next ship. You are constantly standing on the shoreline of your life, screaming at oceans you can never calm. You spend days agonizing over how someone interpreted your words, nights tossing and turning over whether a business venture might encounter unexpected market shifts, and endless hours attempting to predict the unpredictable behavior of volatile people. You pour immense spiritual and physical energy into managing outcomes, completely forgetting that outcomes are never entirely yours to dictate. When you tie your internal equilibrium to how the world responds to your efforts, you are betting your peace of mind on the roll of loaded dice. Your only true obligation is the purity, precision, and excellence of your own actions. The rest belongs to the wind. Consider the tragic arrogance of an ancient court physician who believes they have the power to conquer death itself. When a patient arrives with a mortal wound, the physician cleans the flesh, stitches the torn muscle, and applies the soothing herbs. That is the boundary of human duty. But if the physician sits beside the bed raging against biology, demanding that the body heal on command, they destroy their own sanity through hubris. Healing belongs to nature, not the doctor. In your own relationships, you have tried to play the role of the desperate physician, attempting to heal wounds in people who refuse to stop stabbing themselves. You cannot force someone to possess wisdom they have not earned, nor can you carry the weight of a conscience they have willingly abandoned. Look at a wild river canyon carved through solid granite over thousands of years. The river never stops to negotiate with the boulders that tumble into its path, nor does it sit stagnant, lamenting how unfair the obstacle is. The water simply yields, flows around the jagged edges, finds the lowest open crevice, and continues its relentless journey toward the sea. Resistance to what already exists is the greatest source of human suffering. When an unexpected crisis lands on your doorstep, a sudden betrayal, a lost opportunity, a painful ending, your immediate impulse is to cry out against the reality of the event. But the event has already occurred. Reality has already spoken. The disciplined mind wastes 0 seconds wishing the past were different. It instantly yields to the fact, adapts its strategy, and flows forward through the next available path. When you refuse to surrender what is beyond your control, you end up living as a hostage in a prison of your own making. You obsess over things that happened 10 years ago, replaying old conversations and wishing you had delivered a sharper retort or made a different choice. But the past is an iron vault that cannot be unlocked by regret, and the future is a mist that cannot be shaped by anxiety. All you possess is the razor-thin sliver of the present moment. Strip away the useless weight of trying to manage the universe. Drop the heavy stones of everyone else's expectations and anchor your entire soul in the single task sitting before you today. Without do the squaters, in the factive alded, and writers. All want to taking wand, an ancient glassmaker heating silica in the roaring furnace of Sidon, understood that attempting to force molten crystal into a rigid mold before it reached the precise temperature would only result in a shattered, worthless mess. The glassmaker applied the flame, guided the blowing pipe with steady hands, and respected the unbending physical laws of the craft. If the glass cooled too quickly and cracked, they did not beat their chest in agony or curse the heat of the fire. They calmly swept the broken shards back into the melting pot and began again. In your own life, you have repeatedly tried to force delicate situations, stubborn people, and timing to bend directly to your private schedule. You scream at circumstances to move faster, demand that people understand your perspective before they are ready, and tear your own spirit to pieces when the world refuses to submit to your personal calendar. Consider the solitary mountain sentinel stationed in an iron tower high above the northern borders of a grand empire. The sentinel does not command the heavy snow to halt its descent, nor do they possess the authority to order the enemy tribes to lay down their weapons in peace. Their single, unalterable mission is to keep the signal fire dry, scan the white ridge through the biting wind, and ignite the beacon the moment danger crosses the tree line. If the empire falls to political corruption in the distant capital, or if the winter becomes the harshest in a century, the sentinel remains steadfast at the post. Most human misery comes from abandoning your own watchtower to run across the map, trying to fix battles you were never commissioned to fight. You cannot govern the entire empire of your social circle, your workplace, or your family. You are only commanded to govern the small, sacred fire of your own mind. Look closely at how an experienced farmer tends an ancient olive grove on the rocky terraces of the Mediterranean. The farmer clears the choking weeds, enriches the dry soil, and prunes away the dead wood with quiet, patient precision. But when a sudden frost sweeps down from the mountains or a prolonged summer drought cracks the earth, the farmer does not sit on the terrace weeping over the sky. They know that sunlight and rain are gifts of nature, entirely outside human jurisdiction. You can do everything right, offer unconditional loyalty, execute your duties with immaculate perfection, give your whole heart to a relationship, and still face cold indifference or sudden ruin. The untrained mind takes this outcome as a personal defeat and sinks into bitter resentment. The sovereign individual understands that duty lies solely in planting and tending the seed. The weather belongs to the cosmos. When you refuse to release your grip on what you cannot govern, you transform your own mind into a relentless torture chamber. You carry the unspoken resentments of old lovers, the unfulfilled ambitions of your parents, the erratic emotional outbursts of your colleagues, and the phantom horrors of a future that may never arrive. You walk through the daylight, dragging a mountain of dead weight, wondering why every single step feels like wading through deep mud. You are not exhausted by the demands of life. You are exhausted by the staggering arrogance of trying to carry the entire universe on your shoulders. You must learn the ruthless, beautiful art of spiritual surrender. Surrender is not defeat, passivity, or weakness. It is the ultimate expression of wisdom. It is the conscious decision to drop every single burden that does not carry your signature. A seasoned desert caravan master, leading camels through the shifting sand dunes of the Sahara, does not fight the sudden blinding sandstorm with naked fists. When the sky turns red and the wind howls, they do not scream into the gale or attempt to force the beasts forward into the abyss. They command the caravan to kneel, pull their thick wool cloak tightly over their face, and wait in absolute stillness until the tempest exhausts its fury. Fighting an immovable reality only fills your lungs with choking dust. When life sends an unpreventable crisis crashing into your world, stop fighting the gale. Pull your awareness inward, steady your breathing, protect your inner clarity, and let the storm rage around you until it has nothing left to burn. The highest form of human power is not the ability to dominate external circumstances, dictate how other people behave, or force the world to bow to your desires. The highest power is the quiet, immovable sovereignty you maintain over your own choices, your own virtues, and your own internal peace. When you finally release the desperate need to fix what was never yours to repair, you step out of the chaotic storm and into an impenetrable fortress of quiet authority. You walk forward with light shoulders, clear eyes, and an unshakable spirit, leaving the heavy chains of impossible control behind you forever. An ancient bellcaster forging a massive bronze monument for a mountaintop monastery understood that pouring molten metal into a damp mold would trigger an immediate explosion, destroying the foundry and blinding the craftsman. The caster could not rush the cooling of the clay or ignore the moisture in the air simply because the monks were impatient for the bell to ring. Every law of physics demanded absolute compliance, and no amount of human frustration could alter the timing of the metal. In your daily existence, you constantly attempt to pour your energy into cold, damp situations, trying to force maturity into people who are fundamentally unready, demanding clarity from chaotic environments, and expecting loyalty from hollow hearts. When the inevitable explosion occurs, you blame yourself for the burns, never realizing that your true mistake was defying the natural order of things. Consider a solitary watchman stationed on the high ramparts of a coastal citadel during a dense, rolling sea fog. The watchmen cannot physically push the mist away with their bare hands, nor can they illuminate the entire ocean with a single handheld lantern. If they spend the night pacing in frantic desperation, cursing the low clouds and straining their eyes into the grey void, they will be utterly exhausted before the first light of dawn. The disciplined watchman accepts the perimeter of the fog, keeps their lantern trimmed, and stays alert to the small circle of visibility directly around their post. So much of your daily anxiety comes from trying to shine your lantern 5 miles into an uncertain future. You obsess over how you will handle a crisis next year, how a difficult relationship will resolve in 5 months, or what you will do if your current plans collapse. You are blinding yourself with worry over a future that does not yet exist. Pull your lantern back to the immediate step beneath your boots and let tomorrow take care of itself. Think of an old river fisherman casting a woven net from a small wooden skiff. The fisherman knows the precise location of the deep pools and understands the feeding patterns of the fish at dawn. They cast the net with immaculate technique, letting the lead weights sink true to the riverbed. But what enters the net, whether a bountiful catch of silver carp or a tangle of dead waterlogged branches, is completely beyond their command. If they pull up a net filled with driftwood, an amateur fisherman kicks the deck, curses the water, and goes home hungry in bitter anger. The master fisherman simply cuts away the tangled reeds, cleans the cords, and casts the net once more. Your responsibility in this life is entirely confined to the quality of the cast. The outcome is the river's business. When you detach your emotional peace from what the net pulls up, you become completely immune to the bitterness of disappointment. Look at a master horticulturist cultivating rare, fragrant blossoms in a walled sanctuary. If an unseasonal swarm of locusts descends from the sky and strips the green leaves down to the wood, the master does not run through the courtyard screaming at the insects or collapse into inconsolable grief over the ruined petals. They sweep up the fallen debris, enrich the soil around the bare stalks, and prepare the roots for the next season of growth. They know that beauty and destruction move in continuous, inescapable cycles throughout nature. When you attach your entire identity and peace of mind to fragile external achievements, praise from unstable people, or temporary seasons of good fortune, you guarantee your own misery the moment the season inevitably turns. Anchor your sense of self in your enduring character, not in the fleeting blossoms that a single cold wind can blow away. When you continuously absorb the chaotic dysfunction of the people around you, you are willingly drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer the sickness. You allow other people's untreated bitterness to dictate your mood, their passive-aggressive silence to consume your thoughts, and their chronic instability to rob you of your sleep. You cannot be the custodian of another person's broken conscience. If someone chooses to live in a dark house with the shutters barred against the sun, it is not your duty to tear down the walls or burn your own sanctuary to keep them warm. Step back and let people sit in the cold reality of their own decisions. The highest act of wisdom is knowing when to withdraw your light from spaces that demand to remain in the dark. In the ultimate analysis of your life, the weight you carry will either be a magnificent structure of purposeful creation or a crushing pile of discarded rubble that belonged to other people. The choice of what sits upon your shoulders has always been entirely in your own hands. Lay down the impossible burden of managing the uncontrollable, cast aside the exhausting need to rescue the unwilling, and refuse to let the turbulence of the world penetrate the sacred inner courtyard of your mind. Stand tall, breathe the clean air of personal freedom, and walk forward in absolute alignment with your own sovereign soul. An ancient bridge builder, laying stone footings across a torrential mountain river in the high Pyrenees, understood that trying to fight the raging current directly with wooden barricades would only result in the timbers being smashed, splinters. The river's raw kinetic force was infinitely greater than any temporary obstacle human hands could construct. The master engineer did not curse the water. They chiseled the heavy granite piers into tapered, triangular prows pointing directly upstream, allowing the violent deluge to split cleanly around the stone and lose its destructive power. Most people spend their entire lives throwing fragile wooden barricades in front of the unstoppable currents of reality. When an unexpected loss strikes, an aging body changes, or a long-standing partnership comes to a natural end, they exhaust their soul attempting to push the rushing water backward. You cannot dam the river of time, change, or human nature. True mastery lies in shaping your own mind into a solid granite prow, allowing the chaotic events of life to split around your stillness, passing downstream without carrying your peace along with them. Consider an old master falconer watching an untamed hawk circle high in the thermal winds. The falconer holds out a leather glove, completely still, offering meat and shelter. The bird may circle for hours, dive toward distant trees, or fly away into the wild hills, entirely obeying its primal instincts. The falconer never screams into the sky, runs desperately across the fields chasing the shadow, or beats their breast in frustration. They understand a foundational truth. You can offer an invitation, you can provide a safe harbor, and you can display impeccable patience, but you cannot force a wild creature to land on your arm before it chooses to do so. In your human relationships, you have spent years running frantically across the fields, trying to force people to appreciate your presence, recognize your loyalty, and return your devotion. You cannot hunt someone's respect with desperation. Extend your character with quiet dignity, maintain your standards, and if they choose the wild wind over your steady harbor, let them fly away without disturbing a single heartbeat of your tranquility. Think of an archivist preserving fragile parchment inside an ancient library situated near the salt spray of a rugged coastline. The archivist cannot order the ocean to stop evaporating, nor can they command the salty sea winds to cease blowing through the coastal valleys. If they spend their days complaining about the sea air, the dampness will still rot the ancient scrolls. The archivist simply seals the heavy wooden chests with thick beeswax, wraps the manuscripts in oilcloth, and places charcoal within the vaults to absorb the moisture before it reaches the text. The outside world is that salty coastal air filled with petty jealousies, reckless commentary, and chaotic emotional climates. You cannot sterilize the atmosphere of human society to suit your sensitivities. Your sacred responsibility is to seal the vault of your own mind, ensuring that the salt and dampness of the world outside never penetrate the precious manuscripts of your integrity and self-worth. Look at how an ancient desert nomad navigates by the constellations during a long midnight trek across shifting dunes. The nomad knows that the sands shift constantly underfoot. Ridges rise and collapse with every gust of wind, and no physical landmark in the desert remains unchanged from one season to the next. If the nomad attempted to steer the caravan by aligning with a particular dune, they would wander in circles and perish of thirst under the scorching sun. The nomad fixes their eyes exclusively on the Polaris star, an eternal beacon unbothered by terrestrial winds. People who anchor their sense of security to shifting human promises, fluctuating social praise, or temporary material circumstances are navigating by moving dunes. The moment the wind blows, their entire foundation disappears, leaving them disoriented and terrified. You must steer your life solely by the eternal stars of your own virtues, your unwavering principles, and your internal code of honor. When you continuously demand that other people act with the same integrity, foresight, and consideration that you provide, you are demanding that a barren fig tree yield sweet grapes in the dead of winter. People can only offer what exists within the storehouse of their own character. If their spirit is bankrupt, filled with insecurity, envy, and avoidance, they will inevitably repay your generosity with neglect and your truth with deception. Expecting them to behave like enlightened sages simply because you treated them with honor is not virtue. It is naive entitlement that sets you up for constant heartbreak. Accept human beings exactly as they are, without romanticizing their potential or ignoring their flaws. When someone shows you the limits of their capacity, believe them immediately, adjust your boundaries accordingly, and never permit their limitations to become the measure of your worth. In the final reckoning of your days on this earth, you will not be evaluated by how many uncontrollable outcomes you attempted to micromanage, nor by how many broken people you nearly destroyed yourself trying to fix. You will be measured solely by the stewardship of your own soul, how cleanly you guarded your thoughts, how fiercely you protected your peace, and how bravely you let go of the things that were never meant to be yours. Drop the impossible burdens from your shoulders, step away from the battles that yield no honor, and enter the quiet, unassailable fortress of absolute self-mastery. Subscribe to the Stoic path to continue freeing your spirit from useless burdens, mastering emotional sovereignty, and walking the timeless road of true inner strength.